Hey guys, welcome to Major's Garage. This is Suellio. I'm the crew chief for Formula 3 and Formula 3.5. We're gonna see my lap here at Imola. It was a 36.842, and let's see the first corner here. It's a pretty difficult one, I think. Um, my braking reference is somewhere after the 100, but I really look at the 100, and I try not to brake too much later than that. As you can see, uh, as I am like besides the 100, I'm already like touching the brakes, and then gradually increasing. Actually, I'm just punching the brakes, but since we're in the slow motion, we see it progressively going up. But I'm definitely full brakes before 75, before 80 meters. So basically, my reference is not the 50; it's the 100, and I brake slightly after it. But in a way, it's pretty close to it. I downshift to fourth gear, and then I definitely don't want to carry too much brakes into this corner. This car likes transferring weight back to the rear as soon as you're already rotated enough towards the apex. So as you can see, I'm releasing my brakes quite quickly as I turn in, and before the apex, I'm already coasting. I'm already not on the brakes, and basically even like before the apex, slightly after that, I'm already trying to load up my rear tires by putting a little bit of throttle. So everything happens quite quickly. I am actively controlling the weight of the car. So I'm churning in, and then immediately after I churn in, I do this progressive change from the brakes to the throttle at the apex. So about these curves, it's very, very dangerous to touch the black curb. So try to be on a safe distance. If you're like on a hot lap, you can be very close even to the green part here, but it's gonna be very dangerous if you try to do this all the time during the race. It's very likely that we will eventually touch that curb, and it just unsettles the car a lot, and it's normally we cannot save it. And if we are able to save it, we lose a lot of time anyways. So I try to keep a safe distance. This is like 1 or 2 tires distance, and the second one actually is slightly easier not to hit, I think. So I was very, very close to it this time. The key here to not to hit the second one is to change direction quite aggressively, quite quickly. So as you can see on my wheel here, as soon as I start turning, I turn to the other side quite quickly. You see? So I can have this slight precision not to touch the other curves. But this first one, I think it's easier to hit, so I prefer to have a little bit of a distance from it, and then try to be a little bit more aggressive from this on this one. Then flat out for this one, you get no off track if you go on the green part there. For this one, we definitely don't have time to brake, get back on the throttle and brake again. So what I do is I do a slight rear brake here on this entry, so I can safely put my car over to the left part of this area here, so I could have a good entry for the next one, which is the actual corner. So this first one should be seen as a preparation for the actual corner. So I'm really trying to maintain my car to the left here. If we brake a little bit more, we can even go further to the left. As you can see, I'm drifting a little bit. There's a little bit of space here. If we are very precise and we want to be, we can be even closer to the left here. This will benefit us having a better line for the next one. But just trying to keep the car on this area here will already be the good approach for these two corners. So So trail brake and then progressively increasing the brakes. And as you can see, when I'm turning, I'm not on the brakes too hard, but as soon as I want to get back on the brakes, I straighten my wheel, I brake harder, and then as I start turning again to the other side, I release my brakes again. Same thing about the curb here. I want to be close to it. Here, it's actually very important that you are very close to it anyways. So yeah, just be ready not to touch it. So we need a little bit of practice to avoid those curves. And also very important that we get back on the throttle at least at the apex or slightly before. We definitely want that exit speed here. And also we can use all of this green part without getting off track. My reference here is, as you can see, there is this white mark here that I think corresponds to the 50. This is where exactly where I brake. As you can see, I'm not actually braking my hardest pressure there. I'm starting to brake here, and my hardest pressure is some cars after. But that's my reference, and that's where I'm looking for. You can see that I'm really braking over the white line. It's very important that we have the best entry possible, and that on entry, I'm very progressive with the steering wheel. So as you can see, I'm turning very patiently because it's a pretty long hairpin, and then when I get back on the throttle, I will correct it a little bit if there is a little bit of oversteer. Also, we can use this green part here with no off tracks. For this one, I don't really have a braking reference. I brake a little bit after the 50, but when I start braking, I'm already looking at the curb. So I brake not too hard. We don't need to brake too hard for this corner. We brake around like 45%, and then immediately we start releasing and turning in. I definitely want to touch this curb here. It's a good reference. When you touch it, when you really go for it, it kind of helps building the good line for this corner. And also I want to get back on the throttle quite early, at least. As you can see here, I'm actually getting back on the throttle slightly before I go over the curb, the inside curb, and then the car goes naturally to the outside if I am at the right speed. We get no off track here, only if we go over this drain here. As you can see, there's a little bit of a drain here for the rain, and that's where we don't want to go over. And for this one, we approach this first corner flat out, and as soon as we go over the apex, we start braking. I mean, a little bit after we start braking for the actual corner. And this is important. Don't brake quickly. As you can see, I'm starting to brake progressively as I wait my car to settle from the corner, because I am coming from a corner. So we can't just slam the brakes. We need to apply them progressively as we unwind the wheel. So let's see that again. I'm coming from a corner. I start progressively increasing the brakes as I unwind the wheel, and then here again, very important that we get back on the throttle at least progressively, because it tends to oversteer here. At the apex, never getting back on the throttle after the apex. We want to get back on the throttle at the apex so we can carry the most speed out of the corner. This green area here, oddly, because we actually can get a lot of the green areas throughout the track, this one is a no-go. We don't want, because if you put just one tire over the green part, you get an off track. If you put two tires, you gotta slow down. So definitely don't go for this green area here. This is a tricky one. I like to take it on a safe approach, so I go for third gear. I definitely don't shift to second here. I brake quite hard at the 50. You can see here, this is like 75% brakes probably, but immediately I start releasing so I don't lock up the tires. And then I want to really attack this curb a lot. And then be careful not to change direction too quickly or before you land. As you can see, I am changing direction quite quickly, but as soon as my car lands, I'm still not turning too much to the left. If you turn to the left like a lot before the car hits the ground, it can just snap to the left very quickly, and it's impossible to save. So we have to pay attention on the timing for the change of direction here. And then also we can really be quite aggressive on the second curb as well. Just be careful. If you put the outside tires over this inside darker tire, you will get a slowdown. So be sure that you're at least keeping 2 tires over the curb, over the white and red curb. And also you can totally get this green area here without getting off track. Just be careful not to put the middle of the middle of the car over this division between the green and the gray area, because that will give you a slowdown. Again, here I want to brake pretty hard and really over the white line. I want to be quite progressive on the release and turning. As you can see, my wheels, with my wheel, I'm not really turning aggressively. I'm progressively putting the front tires into work. So, and I also want to get back on the throttle at the apex. This one I was actually not too aggressive on the throttle because I felt the car would oversteer a little bit, but I was carrying a lot of speed from the entry, so it was still a very good one. And then about the grass here, we should get a little bit of the grass here. It's slightly dangerous, so it needs a lot of practice, but we definitely can put the car, the outside tires on the grass here without getting off track. But I was not full throttle, of course, because it's quite a short straight between one corner and the other. So this line here being a little bit off track, but not actually off track because you don't get an off track here, helps for a good entry for the last corner, which will actually help you carrying more speed through the entire straight. So it's worth it, but it needs a lot of practice. And then again here, we definitely want to put the inside tires over this curb here, so we can, as soon as we get back on the throttle aggressively over this curb, the car oversteers a little bit, and then with slight controls, we can carry as much speed as possible here. And we also can use this green area here. So yeah, I think this will be helpful for you guys, and see you next week.